So the live stream. If you are joining us by way of the live stream right now, we invite you to hit the share button and send this out. This is the Coalition to Defend Democracy. We're going to begin this press conference in just a few moments. And so again, we ask that you would share this out on YouTube or on Facebook, wherever you are. This is critical information. And so again, please share this out for the Coalition to Defend Democracy. Wonderful. Good morning. Welcome to Mother Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church. We're glad that you are here gathered with us on today in this press conference and this press event to welcome in the Coalition to Defend Democracy. We want to welcome members of Power Interfaith, SEIU Healthcare PA, SEIU Unite Here, Amistad Law Project, the NAACP, the Philadelphia branch, and the state branch, Working Families Party, Free the Ballot, Abolitionist Law Center, Neighborhood Networks, PA Policy Center, Black Clergy of Philadelphia and Vicinity, the Urban League of Philadelphia, Healing Communities, the Charles Foundation, Frontline Dads. Also joining us, elected official Sharif Street State Senator, and other persons may be joining as well and will identify themselves as necessary. I'm so glad to welcome you into Mother Bethel. This is the oldest parcel of land continuously held by African Americans. We are here today in our fourth building, built in 1889, and I want to thank the community for their support in our recent vandalism experience, the way in which the community poured out. Many of the folk who are sitting and standing behind me were also a part of that, so I cannot begin without expressing a word of gratitude to all of you. But we're also here today because Mother Bethel continues to be a place that stands on the side of what is right. Our founder, Bishop Richard Allen, who was born enslaved in this city of Philadelphia in 1760, later sold to a slave owner in Delaware, purchased his freedom by working after his slave labor was done, as he would haul salt for the Revolutionary Army, aiding for the support of this country to be free, only to be denied the right to vote himself once freedom came for everyone else. And since that time, since these doors have been opened in the 1790s until the present, we have always been here, whether it's allowing persons like Frederick Douglass and others to come and speak in this pulpit to say to the world that we want rights for everyone, regardless of their gender, regardless of their race, regardless of their religion, their creed, or no religion at all. Everyone ought to have the right to have their vote. And once you have the right to vote, we've got to fight to protect the right to vote. We saw on January the 6th, just a few years ago, when people were upset about the outcome of the election, the storming of the Capitol as people scaled the walls to try to take down democracy. But even if you're not scaling a wall and you are simply trying to just, do it with a pen and paper in the quiet of a room, passing a bill, then signing it into law, it still has the same chilling effect. Act 40 has taken away the rights of people who voted in an election in Philadelphia about how we would govern ourselves, who would prosecute our laws. And if you follow the law carefully, you're going to hear wonderful speakers today about it. But I wanted to make sure that it was here at Mother Bethel to show the proximity of how this law impacts us. Right outside of this sanctuary is the Richard Allen statue. Next to that statue is the 40 bus stop. And the bus stop sign is a reminder that if you follow that law, and if a special prosecutor is actually appointed in Philadelphia, that means that incidents like the vandalism that happened here would be subject to be prosecuted by someone who was not elected by Philadelphia, someone who'd be appointed by an appointee. Somebody say amen. That's not what we voted for. It's not what I voted for. So I'm here to say to the governor, here to say to the legislature, and here to say to anyone else who's listening, including the attorney general, keep your hands off of our votes. Our votes are sacred, and our votes ought to mean something, not just on election day, but after election day. With that said, let me welcome the Reverend Greg Holston to come and introduce the rest of the program for us. And again, welcome to Mother Bethel, and share this out.
Thank you, Reverend Tyler. Again, my name is Reverend Gregory Holston. I am the chair of the Black Clergy Gun Violence Committee, 57 Block Coalition, and I'm a senior advisor here in the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. Act 40 canceled the votes. 155,000 votes in the city of Philadelphia who picked and chose their district attorney. There's a story that goes along with that, and I'll be quick as I can with that story. Much of that story started right here at Mother Bethel, where people who were upset about Michael Brown, people who were upset about the slaying and the murder of Michael Brown, the slaying and the murder of so many black people by police, and wanted to make sure that police were going to be held accountable for what they did. They organized right here, along with so many others who wanted to fight for equal education for all and raising the minimum wage. And the essence of our organizing was always around, let us use the ballot. Let us use the vote. Just historically, like it was for Martin Luther King Jr. and so many a part of the civil rights, we understood the value of the vote was the value of our power, that we could not exercise our power unless we had the power to vote. And so I remember those nights here at Mother Bethel in 2014 and 2015, and those dates and further nights in 2016 that led up to this district attorney race, because so many people here simply wanted to make sure that that office was fair and just. And across the nation, a same movement was happening. We fast forward, and we recognize that we are freeing the wrongfully convicted. We are holding police accountable. We are finding ways to reduce mass incarceration. We were at that time in 2016 the most incarcerated city in the country and probably the most incarcerated city in the world. Yet we today stand differently in our position because we have made a difference in bringing justice and equality to black and brown people in this city. And yet there are those who fight us. There are those who simply don't want us to exercise democracy. There are those who want to take and cancel our vote because they never believed in democracy in the first place. No, they only believed in democracy if you're white and you're Christian. They don't believe in democracy for everyone else. And so they don't believe in democracy for Philadelphians in this city. They don't want you to exercise your right to vote. And so a senator from Johnstown came up with this Act 40, this law that simply used SEPTA and used some justification somehow he was going to make it safer for Philadelphians. See the arrogance in that? Somebody from Johnstown believes that they can tell us what will make us safe, even though we have said over and over in Harrisburg, no, you want to make us safer? Pass some gun laws. You want to make us safer? Do fair and full funding for our kids. You want to make us safer? Raise the minimum wage so that more people not living in poverty. If you want to make us safer, do these things. Well, what did they come up with? A mechanism to take the power that we have claimed through the vote, through our district attorney's office, to take that power and to nullify our votes, to cancel our votes, and now to appoint a special prosecutor over this city, a law that allows for 85% of the city to be under the control of an appointed, unelected person. How dare you do that? How dare you do that? And we know why you're doing that, Senator, from the Johnstown area, because 4 prisons are in your area. We know why you're doing that, because you're concerned about your constituents who depend on jobs from those prisons. One prison that cares for the sick, cares for those prisoners that are ambulatory, who can't even move, have to lay in the bed, or are critically ill. All 1,400 prisoners that are in a prison near that area. You and your area makes $140 million on caring for those people who would love to be cared for by their loved ones back here in Philadelphia. You don't care anything about us. You don't care about our families. You don't care about our pain. Some of those same people who have been in prison unjustly and simply and have lived exemplary lives while they've been in prison and simply want to be able to die in the presence of their family. You hold on to them because you want to hold on to the money, and you write laws like Act 40 to keep control of those prisoners, to keep control of our loved ones. Well, we're standing up today to tell you, no, you're not going to do that. I don't care that this law has already passed. We're going to do what is ever necessary to what we can do to end this law, to rescind this law, to return power back to the citizens of Philadelphia, to return power back to the 155,000 votes, to return back the power that belongs in the citizens of Philadelphia. This is not about the personality of our district attorney. This is about the power and the privilege and the votes of black and brown and other people in this city. If you really believe in democracy, then you believe in ending this law. If you care, there's no deal that can be cut. There's no negotiation that could be made that can ever justify the taking of our votes. It is our power. It is the essence of what we have fought and bled and died for so many times in the streets of Philadelphia and across this nation for so many years. It is our right, and we will exercise and use our rights to bring justice and equality to our people. You will not take our vote. You will not take our vote. You will not take our vote. And if anybody else wants to stand in the way because they believe somehow it's good politically, don't believe for a second that we're not going to do everything in our power to stand in your way. Because our right to vote is more important than everything else. I'll leave you with this point. When Lyndon Johnson sat down with Martin Luther King, and King said, when are we going to get the Voting Rights Act? Lyndon Johnson said no, he couldn't do this now. But he was getting ready to start the war on poverty that was going to help your people, as Lyndon Johnson said. It's going to help your people. It's going to help your people, and you should get behind this. And Martin said, if we don't have the right to vote, we don't have anything. And he turned around and he went to Selma, Alabama. We're going to take the same energy and determination that Martin Luther King left with when he left that White House office to say, no matter what you offer to us, if we don't have the right to vote in our city, if our votes can be canceled, if our votes can be lost, we will fight with the same kind of determination that Martin and others fought at Selma, Alabama, to return what we're supposed to have. Thank you so much. Now we'll hear from all these other great speakers and leaders of all of these organizations that are part of this powerful coalition that has come together. Now I want to hear from Senator Street, representing, of course, himself and the Senate Democrats, who's going to come and share at this time.
Giving honor to God, it is, because we are in the house of God. I'm always glad to be with you all, but unfortunately we get together too often on occasions where we're fighting against something that people are attempting to take away from us. Reverend Holston spoke about the morality of the moment. And this is a moral moment, but I'm going to speak about the legality of the moment. Act 40 is an unconstitutional law that did not go through the proper procedures in the legislature and should not stand. It should be declared unconstitutional. First of all, it is a transportation bill. It is a criminal justice bill about prosecutorial discretion masquerading as a transportation bill. The subject matter of this bill has nothing to do with moving people to and fro. It has nothing to do with building out transportation infrastructure. It has everything to do with the exercise of prosecutorial discretion. Now let's examine this, because the proponents of it would say, well, it's about what happens to people feeling safe on mass transit, except for the way the language of the bill is written, and it's deceptive. It references, it doesn't specify exactly where on what the transportation authority's jurisdiction is. It says anywhere on the campus of it. Now, it doesn't say that expressly in the bill, but it references another section in Title 22. I said, well, they had to define it some kind of way. Well, they defined it in that way, and if you look at it, that would be everything within 500 yards of a SEPTA station, or a SEPTA route, or a right-of-way, which is nearly everywhere in the city of Philadelphia. But that would also, if you're really concerned about people being safe on SEPTA, that should also include large swaths of Montgomery County, Delaware County, Bucks County, but it limits it to the city of Philadelphia. So if a person is riding along the regional rail and they need assistance, and they get from a special prosecutor, because the ordinary prosecutorial process is not the same, even though the laws governing prosecutorial discretion are the same across the Commonwealth. Apparently, sitting on that same train, that same person, when the train crosses into Montgomery County, or crosses into Delaware County, or crosses into Bucks County, they no longer need that assistance. That is not rational. So it defies the lowest standard of discretion, which is it has to have a rational basis. But I would say it's more pernicious than that, because the county in which they want to remove prosecutorial discretion is the county of Philadelphia. And in Philadelphia County happens to be the only minority county, the only majority black and brown county in the Commonwealth. So therefore it has what's called a disparate impact on people of color, a disparate impact on a racial minority group. And when you do that, you have to apply not the lowest level of discretion, which it fails, which is rational basis, but the highest level of discretion, which is strict scrutiny. Because of the history of discrimination in this country, you are not allowed to pass laws that have a disparate impact. That means it hurts people of color. That means it takes something away from people of color. And if you do that, you have to apply the highest scrutiny to that, because given the history of this country, the Supreme Court has said we got to be suspicious of laws that do that. Well, this law clearly does that. It impacts, and it takes away, and it removes the right of who exercises prosecutorial discretion only in the city of Philadelphia, which is a minority county, even though SEPTA goes through lots of other counties, and SEPTA is the purported reason. But let's continue, because they said, well, we're not taking anything away. We're assisting. We're aiding the people of Philadelphia. But if one, nobody asked for that aid, and two, it's not merely that you're aiding, you are taking away something, because a seminal issue in the election for district attorney was who gets to exercise prosecutorial discretion. And the communities of color overwhelmingly spoke up and said they thought we were over-prosecuted and there was too much prosecution. And the makers of the bill are suggesting that it's fine if the DA wants to increase his prosecutions as long as other people can do it. But the exercise of prosecutorial discretion includes the decision not to bring charges or to bring lesser charges, because we don't want so many people sitting in jails. You see, it is not merely okay that the district attorney could lock somebody up, but he's supposed to have the decision to say, I don't think charges need to be brought in this situation, or these charges need to be brought, but not those charges. And that's not a ancillary issue. That was the seminal issue in the election for district attorney. Both times he ran for office, his opponents suggested that they would exercise greater prosecutorial discretion. They would use their prosecutorial discretion to lock more people up. And that position was overwhelmingly rejected by the people of Philadelphia. And so that's why it ties into who gets to make the decision. Do the people who elected a guy in Johnstown get to make the decision, or do the people of Philadelphia get to make the decision? Every person is supposed to have an equal right to vote, and that means an equal right to have their votes counted. And that means an equal impact of their vote. So it's not okay that the who gets to make the decisions about prosecutorial discretion gets to be infringed upon only in the city of Philadelphia. And because we're majority county, it fails strict scrutiny. But even if you say, well, it's not really racial, it's not rational that those people would need that assistance only in the county of Philadelphia when SEPTA goes across several counties. So it's unconstitutional on that basis as well. This bill, moreover, it sets forth this thing about who gets to pay for it. And it says the city of Philadelphia has to pay for it. The district attorney may not advance Commonwealth funds, may not expend Commonwealth funds, but sets forth no mechanism whereby the city is going to reimburse, and says, in fact, they can't spend the money, so I don't even think reimburse is permissible. And it's no way that the district attorney can reach directly into the general fund of the city to spend money. And therefore, it is additionally unworkable and therefore unconstitutional. This is a ridiculous law, and I'm going to go further. It is true that the number of folks who in mass incarceration have been dropping, and the prison population has been dropping, and there are folks, many of whom supported this bill, that want prisons to be filled. And so that's not legislatively impermissible, but it's plain wrong, and we need to see through what's going on. And I will go one step even further. It is wrong because people haven't trusted our representatives to make decisions for our lives. And it is wrong because he's trying, in many cases, he suggested that, well, maybe his folks may visit here and that people come from all around to visit. But the reality is, you say it is a way of scapegoating in some of the worst possible ways. Because, in Johnstown, they have a pretty big crime problem too, but it didn't suggest the bill there. In Johnstown and in the areas out there in Cambria County, they have some of the highest drug overdoses in the Commonwealth. And in many areas of that district, the drug overdose rate is even higher than it is in Philadelphia. So if the crime and the addiction and the death is so high in his district, why did he suggest taking away the prosecutorial discretion of the people that he represents and that elected him? It's not about that. But I would suggest, in summary, for folks who are looking at this, one, I want to encourage you to use your voice and speak up. Two, I want to encourage you to move forward and take action. And the action that you can take is, for those who are citizens, file an amicus brief like we did. We filed a brief and spoke up and said, this is wrong. An amicus brief is your way of, literally means Latin for friend of the court. And it allows you to let the court know what your opinion is. It allows you to set forth legal arguments, and we have set forth them. This bill is unconstitutional. People need to speak up. We should speak up. We've spoken with our ballot. We've spoken at the ballot box and selected the district attorney we want to represent us. Now we need to make sure that the courts enforce our constitutional rights and strike down this bill as being unconstitutional for being violative of strict scrutiny because of its impact on black and brown folks, of being violative of rational basis because it doesn't cover all the counties where SEPTA people ride, and your threat level doesn't change just because the train crosses the county line, and violative because it doesn't set forth a rational way to pay for it. It is unconstitutional, it is foolish, it is stupid, it is scapegoating, and it needs to be struck down.
Thank you, Senator Street. Now, we have a short time frame here to hear from a lot of speakers, so I'm going to ask there'll be 2 to 3 minutes if they can. We want to make sure we get everybody in here. So we'll now hear from Melissa Robbins representing the Urban League, and that will be followed by Reverend Jay Broadnax representing Black Clergy of Philadelphia. Remember, 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes each. Thank you so much. Come in that order.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's always a pleasure to be here in the house of God. My name is Melissa Robbins. I serve as the Vice President of Advocacy and Public Policy for the National Urban League, for the Urban League of Philadelphia. As you know, our organization is a historic civil rights organization dedicated to economic empowerment, equality, social justice. We were founded in 1910, and the Urban League collaborates at a national and local level with communities, leaders, policymakers, and corporate partners to elevate standards of living for African Americans and historically underserved groups. You've heard why Act 40 is immoral. You've heard why it's illegal. The question is, what do we do now? Unfortunately, information isn't disseminated in a way that we would like to see it. Therefore, we have an enormous amount of apathy around the city. It is incumbent upon everyone here to ensure that we share out this information. What is the Urban League of Philadelphia going to do? Well, I'm going to lead a campaign that begins in April, and what we're going to do is launch one of our 3 Ds. Our 3 Ds here at the Urban League is to defend democracy, demand DEI, and defeat poverty. At the top of that is defending democracy. The campaign will be citywide. Our goal is to get as many people registered to vote, to educate, and to engage people. And a part of that will be sharing out information regarding Act 40. Yes, we are a nonpartisan organization. However, it is critical that we touch as many people as humanly possible in Philadelphia County. As we know, Act 40 only targets Philadelphia County. As we know, Philadelphia County is the blackest, the brownest county in the Commonwealth, so it's no question what's going on here. We are being targeted, and we are being told you are not capable of making decisions for yourself, black people. You should not have power, brown people. We want continued dominion over you, over your voices, and over your votes. And if you feel the way I'm feeling, we can't stand for it now or never. We stand on the shoulders of people who made the ultimate sacrifice, the sacrifice that many people aren't willing to do today. So again, I say, the question is, what is the next step? We have to hit the ground running. That means put your sneakers on. That means get out there, get your turf cut, get your doors prepared, knock on doors. Be prepared to be turned away. Be prepared to be insulted. Be prepared to have people not care. Push on. Stay the course. This is a critical time, people. This is it right here. Because if that man gets back in office, I don't know what this country is going to look like. And I stand before you as a United States Army veteran. I stand for all. But we got to get out there, and we got to touch our people, and we got to get people to the ballots. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Jay Broadnax. I'm past president of Black Clergy of Philadelphia and Vicinity, standing in proxy for my president, Bishop J. Lewis Felton, who is the president of Black Clergy. We are an organization whose mission is to promote social, political, and economic justice. And this issue is one of self-determination, plain and simple. There are those who want to take away our self-determination. And there are puppet masters trying to reach into Philadelphia and control the destiny and make decisions that overwhelm the decisions that have been publicly made through our elective process. They want to take our voice away. Are we going to stand for that? If we stand for it, what's the next thing that they're going to try to control from outside of Philadelphia? Philadelphians have made a decision about who should have, as Senator Street said, prosecutorial discretion. And we believe that we as Philadelphians ought to be the ones to decide who should make those decisions and how crime should be prosecuted. Who are you to tell us how to solve crime and to keep people safe in the city of Philadelphia? That is arrogance at the utmost level. We must stand up for our votes. We must contend and make sure that our votes are not canceled. And we must determine that if there are changes to be made in the city in terms of how things are being done, we should be the ones to make those changes. We should be the ones to determine how the strategy should be taking place. And if you want to make investments in solving crime, as was said by Reverend Holston, invest in programs that will actually reduce crime. Not these kinds of things that take away control of people who voted in good faith in an election and overwhelmingly decided what should take place. So on behalf of Black Clergy of Philadelphia and Vicinity, we stand with the Coalition to Defend Democracy in this initiative, and we believe that this law should be declared unconstitutional. Thank you very much.
Catherine Hicks, president of the local NAACP, could not be with us today, but she just wanted to express her same feelings. As Reverend Jay Bronax just said, the NAACP stands with this coalition to defend democracy and will do whatever is necessary to make sure that our votes count and our votes matter. Now we want to hear from some of our union leaders. We're going to have Wendell Royster come from the SEIU Healthcare and Labor for Black Lives to come at this time.
Good afternoon. My name is Wendell Royster, one of the vice presidents of SEIU Healthcare Pennsylvania, where we service nursing home workers, hospital workers, and home health care aides across the state of Pennsylvania, 25,000 strong. 32BJ has 10,000 members here just in Philadelphia. And I just want to speak a little bit about power, because this is what it's about. It's a shift of power. And our local actually spent time knocking on doors, calling folks, and turning out the vote for Larry Krasner twice. Been on the front lines to defend him on several occasions when they tried to impeach him. I want you guys just to pay attention to what's really happening here in Philadelphia. This ain't about Larry. It's about the black votes in Philadelphia and the power that we have in our votes. But it's also trying to send us a message that if they can tweak a little thing, that the big thing that's coming in November is what they want to try to build this precedence on. So we have to really pay attention to what's happening now. And one of the things that got me so angry and got me so involved is because they snuck this in. They snuck this in. I didn't know a thing about this until I got down with Reverend Halston. They actually gave me a call. So when they are sneaking things in to dwindle our power, we have to educate our members, our residents, and the people that we care for, as well as ourselves. If you don't know what Act 40 is, look it up. If you don't know what Act 40 is, please pay attention, because we have a lot of literature out here. The one thing that we have to make sure that we do is we have to educate folks, and we have to talk to them at their level. We have to make sure that we put these fancy words away and really talk about what this means. It means deteriorating the black vote in Philadelphia. It means incarcerating more folks if they could. It means us not having the power that we have now to make our own decisions in Philadelphia. And I'm going to leave it there. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we vote, we win. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendell. SEIU Healthcare, Labor for Black Lives, SEIU. I see Lance is here from SEIU, 32BJ. We also want to thank Unite Here, who is also a part of this coalition to defend democracy, to defend democracy, to defend democracy. And yes, if they can do this to our district attorney, what's going to stop them from doing it to our mayor? What's going to stop them from doing it to our city council? What's going to stop them doing from every place that power that exists here in the city of Philadelphia that right now is in black and hands and black and brown hands? How long before they attack those areas? We have to stop this. If we're going to keep our sovereignty as the city of Philadelphia, we have to stop this, and we have to stop it now. Now we're going to hear from some of our activists, our leaders, in terms of returning citizens and also activists around gun violence. We want to have Salim Holbrook come, of Abolitionist Law Center, as well as then Movita Johnson-Harrell from the Charles Foundation, and then Reuben Jones from Frontline Dads, in that order, come and share about what this means to your constituents.
Good morning. My name is Robert Salim Holbrook. I'm the Executive Director of the Abolitionist Law Center. On March 1st, the Abolitionist Law Center joined an amicus brief of the ACLU and several other civil rights organizations in Philadelphia challenging the constitutionality of Act 40. We joined the amici because we believe Act 40 is unconstitutional because it infringes on the equal protection rights of voters in Philadelphia and infringes on our fundamental rights to have our votes counted and represented by the District Attorney Philadelphia elected Larry Krasner. However, we also signed on because we believe this act is a dangerous precedent in disenfranchising communities of color by the state legislature during a pivotal election year where the future of democracy is on the ballot. The voters of Philadelphia did not ask for a special prosecutor for SEPTA to be appointed, and this is not an additional tool for the District Attorney's office to fight crime and gun violence in Philadelphia. Let's be clear. If the state legislature wants to send additional tools to fight community violence in Philadelphia, it should listen to Philadelphians and fund our schools, libraries, rec centers, victim services, vocational centers, and raise the minimum wage. Give Pennsylvanians a living wage. We are also disappointed that in this pivotal year, the governor will sign this undemocratic legislation, and the Attorney General has shown an intent to enforce it. If you can not defend our democratic rights from undemocratic forces in the state legislature, how will you defend it if that threat is coming from Washington, D.C. in 2024? This coalition is making it clear that under no circumstances will we allow any politician going forward to undermine or disenfranchise our democratic rights in the name of public safety, and we will defend our democratic rights ourselves. Malcolm X once said that we will have the ballot or the bullet. For those who are undermining our democratic rights, whether they are Democrats or Republicans, best believe that we are going to use our ballots as bullets on Election Day, and we will be targeting those who are undermining our democratic rights here in Philadelphia. Thank you.
Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Movita Johnson Harrell. I am a human rights and social justice activist. I am also the founder of the Charles Foundation. And let's talk about a couple things that we do know. First and foremost, for anybody watching this live stream, please share with the friends in your network. Please share with the groups in your network. It's important that we share this information with everyone that we know because things are getting by us. They're sneaking things in and getting them by us. And we know that education is power, so we have to share it with everyone that we know, and we have to get everyone engaged. So a couple things we do know is that Act 40 was a bill that was introduced by Langer Holt. We do know that Langer Holt is from Johnstown. We do know that he sits on the Transportation Committee in the Senate. So a couple things that we don't know is we don't know that Johnstown is actually almost 240 miles from Philadelphia. It's almost 4 hours from Philadelphia. Something we may not know is that also Langer Holt sits on the Sentencing Commission. We do know that this law, Act 40, is a racist law, and it's a blatant attempt to discount our votes. This law is voter suppression, period. This law removes prosecutorial powers from our duly elected district attorney, and it fills the beds in the prisons of Johnstown at $50,000 a pop. That means anybody that goes into a prison in Langer Holt District gets $50,000. They get $50,000 for each head that goes into that prison cell, and that means his community benefits from a law that is now in Philadelphia that is voter suppression and racist by nature. Our ancestors died for our right to vote. They were assaulted, dogs were sicked on them, they were hosed, they were jailed for fighting for our right to vote. Langer Holt or Governor Shapiro does not have the right to steal our votes. They do not have the right to say what happens in Philadelphia County. The voters have the right to say what happens in their county. And this is why you need to share this with all of your friends and all of your groups in your contacts on Facebook, because the more we know, the more we can do something. They need to turn back this bill. The Attorney General's office needs to not fill a special prosecutor to take away from the district attorney that we voted into office in Philadelphia. When they talk about 500 feet from any SEPTA stop, that is the entire city of Philadelphia. The entire city of Philadelphia. That means your child will be jailed, because trust me, they're coming for your child. Your children will be jailed. Your children will be shipped to Johnstown so that Langer Holt's district can keep jobs and $50,000 a head. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Reuben Jones. I'm the executive director of Frontline Dads. And I don't think there's much more that I can say that hasn't been said. But I will say, when the democratic process is undermined, there's no democracy. And when the system of accountability is corrupted, there's no justice. So we the people who stand here before you today are demanding that Act 40 be rescinded by whatever process is necessary. And I'm going to make it even more personal, because we know that Governor Shapiro has designs on the White House. We know that there's a huge election coming up. We know that the next 4 years is going to dictate the course and your road there. But we the people are telling you that we will derail that election by any means necessary. If you try to take the voice of the people from Philadelphia, our vote is our voice, and our voice is our power. And we will exercise that power to let you know that we ain't standing for it.
Thank you so much for those powerful words. We're now going to hear from Bishop Dwayne Royster, who is the Executive Director of Power and also, I guess, the interim director for Faith in Action, the national organization, to come and give us a national perspective and a local perspective on these kinds of laws that are happening all across the nation. Bishop Royster, will you come?
Thank you, Reverend Holston. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm here wearing a couple different hats, and I'm not here by myself. Today with me in this place is the Faith in Action National Board of Directors. And I asked them just to wave their hands that they're sitting in the back there. And there's some distinguished folk that are sitting in that room. State Senator Rosalind Osgood from the state of Florida is sitting back there right now. Rabbi Mordecai Liebling, who led the Reconstructionist Jewish movement for many decades in this country, is sitting back there right now. Dr. Stephen Ray, the former president of Chicago Theological Seminary, is sitting back there right now. Father John Bauman, who over 50 years ago helped to found the Faith in Action Network, is sitting back there right now, plus plenty of other leaders that are present here with us today. I'm here because I want to be very clear about a couple of things. That this is an aspect of dehumanizing black and brown folk in the city of Philadelphia. Power Interfaith, which is the state of Pennsylvania's largest faith-based organizing movement of Christian, Jewish, and Muslim leaders, ethical humanists, Unitarian Universalists, and Society of Friends, have fought diligently for many years to make sure that we had reforms in criminal justice system that reflected the will of the people of the city of Philadelphia. Now, in 2017, there was an election in the Democratic primary, and as many of us are aware, the Democratic primary in Philadelphia is really the general election. In the general election, there were 7 people that were running for district attorney. Larry Krasner won that election fair and square. Amen? Everybody from Philly here can testify to that. Larry Krasner won that election fair and square. In the general election, he won by a landslide. In 2021, there was a primary election with a candidate who represented the ideas of the people on the western side of the state. He was a darling of the Democratic Party, but he was also very much a guy that wanted to go back to the old days where black folk in the city of Philadelphia could not feel safe, where brown folk could not feel safe, where people were going to be undermined and prosecuted in ways that we know are not helpful to the people and the citizens of Philadelphia. Now, the voters in Philadelphia had a choice. We had a choice. We could choose to go with the old way, or we could choose a path toward reform and making Philadelphia a more equitable city in terms of its criminal justice system. The decision of the citizens of Philadelphia, by a large margin, 67% of the vote, was that Philadelphians wanted the ideas and the values that Larry Krasner brought to the table. We had a choice. Philadelphia made a choice. Philadelphia told the story about what it wanted. The citizens of Philadelphia made a decision about what they wanted. From my tradition, we would say the children of God made a decision about their collective future that they wanted for themselves. Now there are folks, including a guy who was a co-sponsor of this legislation, who took 3 buses of people down to the January 6th insurrection, who is standing up and basically saying that the citizens of Philadelphia don't really matter and that their white Christian nationalist views are the ones that ought to be supplementing the decisions of the citizens of Philadelphia. Now, if I could just talk about this from a Christian perspective for a moment, there's a couple of things that are happening here. For those of us that are Christians who are people of color, they're telling us that our Christianity is not valid, right? Second of all, they are dehumanizing us and basically saying to us, you are animals and can't make decisions for yourself. We the good white folk have to come along and make decisions for you so that you can have the city that we know that you really want, even though we know that that city is going to be detrimental to you. Why? Because they don't care about us. Why? Because this was a political act. Why? Because they're trying to set themselves up not just to take back our vote in this particular circumstance for the district attorney, but it becomes a slippery slope that if we can do it here, we will do it in other places. We will find more ways to be able to take back your power. Jesse Jackson in 1984, when running for president, spoke at a church not too far from here, another historic church, Tinley Temple United Methodist Church. In his speech that he gave at that church in 1984, he said, as cities become more black and more brown and have more black and brown power structures, there will be attempts by the state government to be able to interfere in those local cities to take back that power. Why? Philadelphia is the economic engine of the state of Pennsylvania. If there is no Philadelphia, Pennsylvania cannot thrive. It cannot survive. The tax base in Philadelphia puts more money into the state of Pennsylvania than we will ever get back out of the state of Pennsylvania. And so here we find ourselves once again with those folk that would rather see us in chains and behind bars, taking control of our land and our property and the resources that exist in the urban environment so that they can make it toward their own benefit. We cannot allow this to happen. We cannot continue to allow this to perpetuate it in this country. Every day, Interfaith and Power Action Fund are working to get citizens out to vote, to exercise their right to vote, to be able to speak their truth in voting. I heard Dr. Ray said some years ago that the vote is sacred and that it, in many ways, is a way that we are actually able to project our faith into the public arena by being able to vote and vote our values, vote our mores, vote our ideas about the world that we want, not the one that we are living in. When our friends, and if we have friends like we do, maybe we don't really need enemies. When our friends who say that they espouse our same values are willing to sell us out in the House and in the Senate, when those friends who are supposed to be the ones that are supposed to be helping us get to the place of liberation, freedom, and a place where every citizen is thriving, when our friends do not stand up for us in this moment and try to tell stories about concurrent jurisdiction, that if concurrent jurisdiction actually existed, then you don't need legislation to make it happen, you just do it. When our friends do not stand with us in these moments in times, then we have to question why we are standing with them. There were a large number of folk from both parties that voted for this legislation. But I will tell you this, 97% of black and brown legislatures all across the state of Pennsylvania said hell no to this bill because they knew what it meant. They knew the implications of it. And so we stand here today with the Coalition to Defend Democracy to defend Pennsylvania from the worst ideas that exist in our legislature, and to say that we will not tolerate it, we will not accept it. We stand here today in partnership with the Abolition Law Center, the NAACP, and other organizations that signed on to the amicus brief that was sent with regard to the lawsuit that exists for this case right now, because we're saying that we cannot tolerate this. Octavius Catto died so that we could have a right to vote, and so that in that right to vote, it would be respected. There are too many folk. I pastored a church in Washington, D.C. for a season where two of my members, one was helped to found the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Commission, and the other one was one of the organizers of the Children's March in Selma that happened before we actually had the big march over the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where there were children from the ages of 17 all the way down to 10 that were arrested in Selma and kept in jail for a week so that they could make sure they had the right to vote, and they couldn't even vote. They were trying to make sure their parents and their grandparents could vote. If those folk are willing to take that stand, you damn well believe we will be willing to do that and more to fight for our right to vote, for our vote to count, for our liberation, and for our freedom here in the city of Philadelphia and beyond. Be warned for all those that came for this bill that we are going to fight like hell until a change comes here in Philadelphia, here in Pennsylvania, here in this country, until we have freedom to make sure that our votes count forever and ever. God bless you, family. Amen.
When we fight, we win.
to remain standing as we get ready to close this press conference, but I think the power of Bishop Royster's words are clear. We're going to do this. Well, this is not about Larry. This is about Martin. This is about Megger. This is about Malcolm. This is about all who died for our right to vote. Don't get it confused. This ain't about Larry. This is about my grandfather. This is about my children. This is about my granddaughter. We're going to keep our right to vote. There's no entity is going to take and undermine our right to vote. This ain't about Larry. This is about my life and the lives of all you see right here. It's not about Larry. It's about us. And all those who want to stand with us, who believe in a multiracial democracy, who do not believe in white Christian nationalism and white supremacy, that want to commit genocide on black and brown people, who believe in us and what our country can be when we are fully democratic and all the rights of the citizens of Philadelphia. Governor Shapiro, you got a choice. Whose side are you going to be on? Whose side are you going to be on? You can't play this both ways. You can't negotiate a deal out of this. You can't shake hands with one and get the votes of the other. Whose side are you going to be on? That is the question for you, Governor Shapiro, and all those that support. Most of the people up here have supported you. Most of the people up here have worked for you. Most of the people up here have knocked on doors to get you elected. You got a choice. We need you to stand on our side. But like Queen Esther said, or like Mordecai said, whose side you going to stand on? But if you don't stand on our side, God will still come and deliver us, and will deliver us justice. You will hear from us soon. Will be having a rally on April 4th. We'll come to you soon with a date for that rally, and we'll be calling all of this city together to rally against this law and for justice. Look for us on the evening of April 4th. We thank you for this press conference. If there's any questions from the press at all, we can entertain them now. If not, we will move forward. Question? Here's press over here. Press over here. It is the law of the state of Pennsylvania. It is the law. It was passed, as Bishop Royster and others have said, late one night, in the midnight hour, without debate. It was slipped into this whole budget situation. And while the Senate was clear, the Senate Democrats were very clear about their opposition to that, as Senator Street has said, and has filed an amicus brief against this law. When it went to the House, it was voted through. Any other questions? I'm going to just finish his, and then I'm come to you quickly. Yes. Yes, the briefs have been filed. The Senate, our D.A. Krasner has filed with the court, and a brief has been filed by the ACLU, which many of our partners here are also a part of that brief, and others will come in support of it. And then the Senate Democrats will be filing their own amicus brief to D.A. Krasner's lawsuit. Question. Okay, wait. Well, only can take one because people have to leave. So we got one question. Yes. One question.